loves, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel if you're new here, and today is a story time about how one of my bestest friends left me in Mexico. Now, disclaimer, this story time is not intended to be messy. I'm only sharing it for number one, this is YouTube, so entertainment purposes. Number two, I'll be sharing some self-reflection, some accountability, and how I kind of should have applied it in that situation. And then thirdly, a lot of these story times about girl trips gone wrong kind of cater to the 30 and under crowd, but I am here to tell you, girls trips often end in the demise of friendships well into your 30s and beyond. I don't know what's in the Miami air, what's in the Mexico air specifically that causes, just a breakdown of communication, ultimately friendships. But I'm here to tell you that it needs to be studied. We need to take a closer look, because why do people become so unhinged in such beautiful tropical locations? The story starts in 2020 during the pandemic. As you know, everyone was traveling. Remember when tickets were like 20 bucks? You go to Mexico for $100. Like, they were pretty much giving away airline tickets, giving away hotel stays. So everyone was outside when technically we should have been inside. We're a subsector of society was outside, myself included, especially towards the end of 2020. So anyway, my close girlfriend, we will call her Erin, purchased a deal in Mexico, like a package in Mexico. I don't remember if she was supposed to go with someone else or what happened, but in any case, she had this deal and she no longer had anyone to accompany her. I would assume she had originally planned to go with someone else, because I don't think she would purchase this to go by herself. Anyway, so all of her friends back where she lives, we live in different states, none of them could go, okay? This friend, by the way, was extremely social. She has tons of friends. I am very much the opposite. So she has tons of friends and she asked everyone, no one could go. We got closer to New Year's Eve. She started to like really pick up her request for me to accompany on this trip, because no one else would go, as I mentioned before. Now, during this time, I was traveling a lot. I was traveling internationally. I was traveling domestic. I had just started dating someone, and it was during that honeymoon stage where we were literally jet setting and having the time of our life. And most importantly, I was looking for a home. I was trying to purchase my first home. And if you've ever been through that process, like a lot of your money's tied up. You want to make sure that you have enough to, make an offer. And then of course, you want to have enough in your emergency fund, right? So I was picking and choosing my trips carefully. So keep that in mind. That's important to remember. Money was, I don't want to say money was tight per se, but if I had decided to go on this particular trip with her, we were not going to be balling out, okay? Because I had a lot of stuff going on. All right, so she finally wears me down and I say, fine, I will go. I don't want my friend to go to Mexico by herself. I thought that I could have made it work. And I just let her know, like, look, I'll go with you, but just keep these other factors in mind, okay? She knew that money wasn't tight, but it wasn't all the way flowing, okay? So I agreed to go with her. Now, before we go on this trip, I find out that one of her close friends, we will call her Yolanda, is hanging out with someone who hates my guts, okay? Let's wait for that to pass. I live right beside a police station and right beside a firehouse, and all day, sirens. All right, so I find out that one of her closest friends has befriended someone who hates me. Now you may be saying, girl, how do you know this particular person hates you? I know because a trusted source that is close with this person has told me they hate me. And if they know that this person hates me, like, the girl hates me, okay? Now, I did not know that this particular person did not like me after all of these years. We had a little disagreement a few years prior, but I had just moved on. We weren't friends to begin with, per se. She is the girlfriend of one of my friends, and I just figured, it's water under the bridge at this point. It wasn't that serious to begin with. But in any event, I found out that Erin's friend Yolanda was hanging out with this particular person, and I felt weird about it, okay? So I told my friend Erin, like, this makes me feel icky. I don't know if I necessarily want to hang out with you and Erin anymore because Erin knows the situation, and I don't know, I just felt weird. Now, granted, it may have been illogical for me to feel that way because we're all adults and, you know, we should be free to be friends with whoever we want to be friends with. But something in my spirit just made me feel uncomfortable. And I don't know if I felt like maybe when they got together, they would all be talking about me. I don't know. And I told my friend that at the time, like, I haven't sorted through my thoughts yet. But in the meantime, like, when you come to town, I don't want to do anything with your friend Yolanda because I just feel weird about the situation. I asked her not to mention it to Yolanda for a number of reasons, but the primary one is, like, I didn't want to articulate, I didn't know how to articulate that my feelings were hurt because I felt like this person, I don't know, I know that it was stupid to ask for her to pick a side or not befriend this person that dislikes me, but that was the whole thing. It's just emotions. Sometimes emotions are illogical. So I was just telling my friend how I was feeling. And because I felt like my emotions were illogical, I told her do not mention it to her friend Yolanda. I probably told her this on a Friday. By Monday, my friend had a full-blown intervention set up and she was trying to call me three-way with Yolanda on the line, trying to sort through the issue. I was telling her, there's no issue, Erin. I don't want to speak to your friend Yolanda. And furthermore, I told you not to mention this to Yolanda. Why are you trying to have me speak to Yolanda? Like, you're not listening. I just need a moment. I told her so many times, my feeling about this particular matter probably doesn't make a lot of sense. It may even come off immature, and I haven't sorted my feelings out regarding it. So no, she kept pushing and pushing and pushing for like days. She kept pushing. And it just so happened that this situation kind of unfolded maybe about 2 or 3 weeks before we were to head down to Mexico for New Year's Eve, okay? So just keep that in mind. My friend was irritated that I did not want to speak to her friend Yolanda because Yolanda, even though Yolanda did not attend as many trips as I did, they were still very much so locked in, and I would later find out Yolanda had a higher spot in her life than I did, than I perceived at the time. That's fine and dandy. All right, so she was irritated. Now, right before the trip, I could tell that the vibes were off. This is someone that would call me constantly to talk. We would talk throughout the day. She wasn't doing that anymore, okay? And I probably should have spoke up and said, hey, I know we have an upcoming trip. How are you feeling about me not wanting to speak to your particular friend? Still want to go on the trip? Like, we should have had a discussion. We should not have gone on a plane and headed out the country with baggage or unresolved issues, okay? And that is my fault. I will definitely take responsibility there. I should have tried to hash things out prior to going on the trip. And when I say hash things out, I don't necessarily mean speaking to Yolanda. I should have just told my friend, like, you know, this is how I feel, and do you still want to move forward with going on the trip? So that is, I guess, so that's one example of something that I could have done to prevent what ultimately ended up happening. All right, so we got to Mexico. I got there a couple of hours early, and I ended up meeting a girl from Texas. We'll just call her Texas girl. And we hit it off, and we agreed to carpool to Tulum. She was waiting for her friend that lives in Toronto. And of course, I was waiting for my friend as well, Erin. So when Erin arrives, we eat, and I find that my friend is hitting it off with the Texas girl. Like, okay, this is good, the vibes are good, everyone's talking, but I noticed immediately like there was a connection. Now, Texas girl had just gotten out of a relationship, she was experiencing heartbreak, and she told everyone. Like, she didn't hold it in. Actually, this trip was kind of like a way for her to get over the heartbreak, and she had been traveling around Central and South America trying to get over this particular guy. And I don't know, something, I guess, about that story resonated with my friend, and she just kind of gravitated to her. So anyway, we take the trip to Tulum. What is that, like an hour and a half from Cancun. And she's texting Texas girl, trying to meet up with her that night. And I don't know, it just felt immediately like she was really trying to form a relationship with her and kind of like distance herself from me, even though she doesn't know Texas girl from a can of paint. Okay, so keep that in mind. So we were supposed to meet up that night, but I don't know what ended up happening. We didn't end up meeting up with them that night. But the next morning, Erin reaches out to Texas girl in an attempt to meet up with them, her and her friend from Toronto. So we grab lunch at a beach club, and I believe that was it. Now, during this time, okay, I also need to put out this disclaimer. This, for whatever reason, everyone was going to Tulum, okay? Like, Tulum was pretty much the only place that was really open, and as a result, traffic was horrendous. I've been to Tulum a few times after the fact, and it was nothing like it was during New Year's Eve in 2020. It was gridlocked. To go a couple miles up the road took an hour practically. I am not exaggerating. If you went to Tulum during that time period, you know, okay? So we didn't meet up after that because the logistics and the traffic was a little bit too much, and they lived on the other side of Tulum. So we didn't meet up with them after that, although my friend Erin was continuously texting, trying to coordinate individual and her friend. I didn't really care too much. I'm a friendly person, but I'm not going to try to be BFFs with someone right off the bat. Like, I usually take my time with that. But like I said, Erin is extremely social. She has tons of friends. So she was always trying to meet up with said girl. All right, so the third day, we decided to do something on our own. We went to the Pablo Escobar mansion, and my friend was kind of hesitant initially to pay the entry fee. I think it was over $100 or close to $100. But I'm like, hey, you know, we rode in the cab for, what was it, like 40 minutes. Let's just go, because to take a cab back, we're gonna have to pay for it, and then to do what, right? So it didn't really take much convincing, but she was like, okay, cool. So when we went in, we decided to grab lunch on the beach, and they had a special. It was like 2 drinks, a few appetizers, and a main course for like, I don't know, $150. Let's say it was like that. So we had agreed to split it down the middle. Now, let me remind you, as the girls are saying, my friend at the time just got a promotion, okay? She had just moved. She was getting a crazy deal through family. I'm talking about pretty much paying next to nothing. And just overall, she had a great situation at the time. Life was amazing for a friend, okay? My life was good too. I didn't just get a promotion, but you know, I was comfortable. I was living in downtown Fort Lauderdale at the time. My rent was crazy, okay? And then of course I am house hunting, and I am traveling extensively during this time, all right? So I have to be conscious of my coins. Every meal we have, every outing we go on cannot be $400 plus, okay? Keep that in mind, all right? So we order this particular deal, okay? Everything's going great. You know, we're vibing. It's not, you know, the usual, we're not in like our usual space, but it's less uncomfortable during this time, okay? All right. Next thing you know, Erin starts ordering drinks off the menu, left, right. She's ordering appetizers. Like, all of a sudden, it's like, waiter! She's ordering apps, drinks back to back to back. I'm like, wait a minute. Hello, remember, this is the meal deal we're getting? Like, it's already expensive. This stuff is not cheap, right? And I'm not here to be Miss Budgeter, but I have stuff that I'm doing in the back end and that I need to be conscious of. And I know like life is really great for you right now, like money-wise, but just try to consider me a bit, you know, right? And she was like, don't worry, I got it. Like she answered in a way, I don't remember, it was something along those lines, but she was pretty much annoyed. Now I'm feeling awkward. I don't want anyone thinking I'm some broke, you know what, but at the end of the day, I have to be, like, I have to consider, I have to consider myself as well. No one came on this trip for their own financial reasons. I came on the trip putting myself in a bind, which I never should have done. But now that I'm here, I have to put myself on a little bit of a budget, right? I am not about to spend $300 on lunch and we didn't even head to dinner yet. No, and there's a whole deal here that we could take advantage of. So anyway, the vibes were off again. So we end up leaving and it starts to rain. She shares an umbrella with a random guy outside of the restaurant. This is during COVID. By the way, during this time in Tulum, no one is wearing masks. It was like nothing I've ever seen, okay? We were still very much in the mask era, but in Tulum, no one was wearing a mask, okay? She gets into the car, we get into the car to go home, and homegirl is coughing up a storm, okay? Nonstop. She's not wearing a mask, and we're both there in the back seat in gridlock traffic, going back to our hotel. We get back to the room and she is hacking, okay? So I'm like, Erin, are you feeling okay? Erin says no. I said, do you feel sick? Erin says yes. I said, Erin, we have been in close quarters, okay? Yesterday, today, you're sharing umbrellas with a random person outside, you're coughing all the time. Like, I'm like, Erin, we have been in close quarters all day. You know you don't feel well. Why didn't you tell me that? Like, we're in the middle of a pandemic. COVID is very real. Why on earth would you keep this from me? So at this point, like, to be quite honest, obviously I didn't have a recorder to see myself, but knowing myself, I was probably a little hysterical. Like, you're telling me you're not feeling well in the height of COVID. You don't come to me with this information. I have to ask you. And that's, if you know me, that's one thing I can't stand. When you don't come to me with important information and I gotta seek it from you, it's gonna irritate me. So she started to explain to me that the reason why she was coughing is because she had just gotten rained on. Now that was not making sense to me because literally she had just gotten rained on and the way that she was coughing wasn't making any sense. Furthermore, I asked you if you were sick or you felt sick. You said yes, okay? So at this point, I'm explaining to her like what she's saying isn't making sense and she should have told me if she didn't feel well, or at the very least have put her mask on. Irritated that she didn't come to me with this information. I had to ask her, you know, after she had been hacking for the last hour, let's say, okay? So the argument escalated and she started cursing and carrying on. I don't even remember what she was saying, but I remember at one point specifically, I'm like, Erin, why are you acting like this? Why are you cursing at me? Aren't we supposed to be friends? Like, we're allowed to have disagreements without it escalating to the point where I feel like everyone can hear us. And I don't like that either. I do not like embarrassment. This particular hotel, the walls were thin. It was one of these like boutique style hotels where it felt very communal. I know guests heard her screaming, okay? And at that point, I'm like, oh, okay. So now you're kind of like unleashing on me all the pent up aggression that you had regarding me not speaking to your friend Yolanda. Like now it's coming out because her explanation, the way how she was conducting herself did not match my inquiry about her not feeling well and me saying like it didn't make sense that, you know, she was doing all this because she got rained on. So I ended up telling her like all this rah that you're doing, I don't subscribe to this. I am not that person. I don't want to be that person. And again, some self-accountability. The person that I was saying I did not want to be may not have been politically correct, and that may have like pissed her off or made her feel like I was saying that she was this lower class person, and maybe I could have phrased it better, but essentially what I was attempting to convey is I don't want to be those girls, you know what I'm talking about, in the hotel making all this noise. We fit a particular demographic and we were only two members of that demographic in the hotel. I just did not want to be a spectacle. You guys know what I'm saying. But I did not say it in the most politically correct way, admittedly. So, and at that point, like I said, she'd been yelling to the point where I had to ask, like, are we still friends? Because you're kind of taking this a little bit too far. That was the beginning of the end, but I did not know that. So instantly she shut down and it was silent treatment, okay? The very next day we headed to Cancun. I called the cab, I let her know that the cab was here. She did not say anything to me. So I'm like, ooh, now I'm realizing I'm in the danger zone, right? Because enough hours had passed by this time for us to have a conversation. She was not saying diddly squat to me, all right? So we head to Cancun. She's still not saying anything to me, right? She's on the phone with Yolanda the whole time. Now, she's not talking smack to me, or smack about me rather, but she's on the phone with her consistently. You would have thought Yolanda was on the trip, right? She's also talking to Texas girl all the time. And I'm like, what is this? Like, why have you taken such a liking to Texas girl? I'm right here, we had an argument. Why aren't you speaking to me? And I would try to like make simple conversation, like small conversation. She was not having it. So eventually I started to get upset, like internally. I'm like, wait a minute. I was the only friend that decided to go on this trip, and now you're giving me the cold shoulder because you were hacking up a storm and you said you were sick and I was irritated because we're in the height of COVID. I digress. So I then decided to speak to my friends while we were there, because I'm not going to be in Cancun by myself with no one, right? So I started to talk to my friend as well, and pretty much it got to the point where one of my friends, who oddly enough is from Toronto, was like, girl, why are you always talking to me? Aren't you on vacation? But that's how bad it was. Like, I felt so lonely. I felt so out of place. I was so angry with myself because I had allowed myself to spend all this money on this particular trip. And here I am, isolated. She's iced me out and she's not saying anything to me, okay? So now I was on the phone with my friend all the time. In the morning, she would get up, she would leave super early. She would not come back to the hotel room until in the evening. If I came into the room, she would leave the room. Like, it was crazy. I was talking to my friend all the time, and thank God for her. She was pretty much my company. New Year's Eve came and went, nothing. Like, I had to celebrate New Year's Eve by myself. And it was so frustrating because I had just recently started dating someone, and like, I could have been there with them. Like, I could have been doing something else. So, or saving my money. I was doing excursions by myself. I was eating by myself. It was a bit intimidating. It was awkward. I've never been on vacation by myself. I didn't sign up to do a solo travel trip, okay? So she had purchased, or within the package, she had gotten free escort to the, back to the airport. And that was already prepaid. So on our last day, you know, I'm getting ready to go to the airport. Again, I'm expecting to get into the prepaid cab to head to the airport. We're both getting ready, and halfway through our prep, I hear the door close, and homegirl leaves the hotel, okay? She leaves the hotel, goes to the airport with the pre-booked car, and leaves me in the room in Mexico. After I was the only friend to agree to go on the trip, even though I had my own financial responsibilities. Now, it is important to remember, now here's another moment of accountability for me. There were red flags. One of the red flags was earlier in the year, for her birthday, she wanted to go to New York. I agreed. At that time, I was under active consular townhome, okay? So again, my money was tied up. I was like, I don't know if I should go. I was humming and hawing. She begged me. She broke me down. I'm like, fine, I will go to your party in New York, your birthday celebration in New York. I went, okay? I flew into New Jersey because was it New Jersey? I feel like it was New Jersey because it was cheaper. And they were supposed to, her and her friends were supposed to come and pick me up, and then we would head to the city. Why did I get to New York and she wasn't answering her phone when I called her to let her know that I was there? Friends who had flew in and went directly to her state told me that they were still in her state, which is not the state of New York. Okay, we'll just say that. And pretty much he volunteered to pay for my cab to get to New York City from New York. That was a huge red flag because I'm flying in for your birthday. You would describe me as your best friend or one of your closest friends, okay? You know that I'm under contract for a house. You know money was tight to begin with, right? Because that's why I was very hesitant to even fly to New York for your birthday. And keep in mind, every birthday trip that she's had since I've met this particular person, I have gone on. So it shouldn't even have been a big deal if I said I couldn't go to the New York trip. But again, that's my fault. I should have been advocating for myself. If I knew money was tight, I shouldn't have gone, right? So anyway, one of our mutual friends ends up paying for a cab, and that's how I end up getting to New York City. When I bring it up to her, she's upset. She doesn't want to talk about it. It's her birthday, leave it alone. You know, someone paid for a cab for me to get there. That's pretty much how she handled it. And I was like, fine, I don't want to argue with anyone on their birthday, but that was like a huge, I don't know, I felt like that was just so rude and so disrespectful, right? And since when she came to Florida, she has a lot of friends in Florida as well, and she was staying in the downtown Fort Lauderdale area. I live in downtown Fort Lauderdale. She rented a car. She was like, when we're zipping around Fort Lauderdale, Miami, I'll come pick you up. Don't worry, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward, she gets there. She had a couple of other friends from her state fly in as well, and they were supposed to rent a car. They didn't end up renting a car, and they just relied on hers. And then all of a sudden, everywhere we went, I had to drive my car. Now, that wasn't a big deal, but it's like she has an easier time letting me down than other people. And maybe it's because I was too passive. Maybe it's because I really wasn't confrontational, or I let certain things kind of roll off my back. But you see where that got me, right? Because now she felt comfortable enough and didn't even consider the sacrifice that I made to squeeze in her trip last minute, and thought it was okay to hop into a paid car and let me have to kind of fend for myself to get back to the airport. So after that day, we never spoke again. I don't know why the disagreement that we had turned into, you know, ultimately what it became, which is like the death of a friendship. But that's exactly what it was. So my self-love lesson, if you watch Tanya TKO, you know what I'm talking about, is pretty much to never betray yourself, because people will always put themselves first. I find that with friendships between women, we often don't give friends as much grace as we do, you know, our male counterparts, unfortunately. And I just should have stood up and walked away, or really just forced discussions pertaining to things that really bothered me. That's pretty much the story of how I got left in Mexico. When we get back home, I realized that she has blocked me, okay? On every single platform, no conversation, no nothing. She has befriended, full-blown befriended Texas Girl. I know this because Texas Girl and I exchanged Instagram handles, and I saw that they became so close that Erin actually went to her wedding. She had gone to Texas to visit Texas Girl. I don't know if Texas Girl ever went to my friend's state to visit her, but I know that they became close enough to the point where she was actually at her bachelorette party and wedding. And I don't know, I found the whole thing to be weird. That really caused the demise of the relationship. I don't know if it's because maybe Yolanda was upset that I refused to have like a discussion about the situation. I don't know if it was because, I don't know, I don't want to say, I would hate to say me being in a new relationship or starting to date someone new was an issue, because why would it be? And by the way, I also need to point, I also went to her state in August as well to see her. So I had gone to New York for her birthday. I had gone to see her in August, and here I was flying internationally for New Year's Eve because none of her other friends wanted to accompany her. So this is a person that I felt like I poured into. I felt like I was a decent friend to, and this is kind of how I was treated in the end. So ladies, please advocate for yourself. Have those difficult discussions. If something doesn't serve you, explain why you can't do something. I know Michelle Obama said, you know, no is a full sentence, but you know, sometimes with your friends, you may feel comfortable, you may want to elaborate, but do that, because ultimately people I find in this world are going to choose them first, even if, you know, you've been a good person for them. And then also you can't hold people to unrealistic standards as well, right? If they've demonstrated that they are incapable of handling you in a particular way, or you feel like you're a particular type of friend to this person, it's unfair to ask them to kind of reciprocate that. Everyone has different tools in their toolbox, and yeah, so you just got to advocate for yourself, set firm boundaries, and stand on them. Because had I done that, I don't think that would have happened. All in all, I was super disappointed. Like, I never thought she would do this to me. I have never missed a trip of hers, internationally, domestically. Like, I felt like I was her confidant. So I don't know, it was a sad situation all around. Sometimes I do miss the friendship or the idea of the friendship, but overall disappointing what the friendship came to, all because I didn't want to speak to your friend when I told you I didn't want you to tell her to begin with. If you guys have a vacation that ultimately caused the demise of a friendship, let me know, especially if this happened in Mexico and Miami, because I'm telling you, there's something in the water, there's something in the air that contributes to this. I want to hear your stories. If you feel like there's something that I did that I could have done better, let me know. If you think you know why she was irritated with me, let me know. I am open. I am open to grow. So I will say, she doesn't know this, but I have seen her constantly looking at my TikTok account. Hey girl, hey, if you're watching, I see you. Again, I don't have any bad blood. I just wanted to share story time with you all. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.